the breaking news story today, which is that it looks like Letitia James is under investigation, and they'll be opening a grand jury investigation against Letitia James.
That's right. So we talked a while back about Letitia James having some issues with a mortgage issue where there was claiming something was her primary residence, getting favorable loan terms when that was out of the state where she was the attorney general. But this isn't related to that investigation where there was a referral to the FBI. This is the Department of Justice that has opened a grand jury investigation into how she handled that civil fraud case that she brought against President Trump during the last election cycle. Remember, this is the one that had Ed, the judge that had the funny smile for the camera. He allowed the cameras to come in at the beginning and ended up giving, after they got a conviction against President Trump, a fine of nearly $500 million.
Roughly $500 million.
So now what they're looking at is whether or not she violated the civil rights of President Trump with her investigation. This stems back from all the statements she made while running for the Attorney General of New York, where she said, I'm going to get him, I'm going to go after him, I'm going to be his worst nightmare, things of that nature, and then bringing this civil fraud case where a lot of it was whether or not the valuation of Mar-a-Lago when it was being used as collateral to secure business loans was the right amount. And then they threw a $500 million fine on President Trump. But what it appears this is going to be under is an investigation into whether Letitia James violated 18 U.S.C. 242, which is a deprivation of rights under the color of law. And this statute is when anyone in a law enforcement position, whether it be an attorney general, whether it be police, it's a very broad statute as far as who this could apply to, uses their position to deprive someone of their constitutional rights. So what we know is they have already subpoenaed the office of Letitia James. That's being widely reported now. The New York Times even had an article out about it. So it must be true at that point. But what we will see is how far this will go in trying to correct the wrongs of the lawfare of the left.
Now, of course, Trump, people that are against this administration are saying, look, this is using, including the lawyers of Letitia James, saying essentially this is playing not only politics, but this is playing personal with politics, with your power.
Right. So there's kind of a catch-22 for the administration, if you think about this, is that what the left did to President Trump is they weaponized the government and law enforcement against him. They used lawfare against him to try to stop him from being elected president of the United States. And that stems way back even to the Russia probe, where they were trying to weaponize the government and law enforcement against the president-elect and then president of the United States. So the catch-22, though, is do you let all those wrongs slide and just be like, we're not going to go after it, we won, we move on? Or do you hold people accountable for misusing the system? But when you do that, that gives the opportunity for the left to cry foul and say, look, he's weaponizing, he's going after people that went after him. So it puts you in this odd situation when in reality, what they did was wrong. They used the law enforcement agencies, the intelligence agencies, elected state officials, went after President Trump because he was President Trump. And they tried to find anything they could to go after him. So Letitia James was a part of this. Alvin Bragg out of Manhattan was a part of this. All of these people, you go down to Fani Willis in Georgia, they all tried to find their own way to get him. And in this case, for the Attorney General of New York, she went and did a civil fraud case against the president's businesses and got into details saying he overvalued properties, which gave him, loans that were more favorable than he would have gotten if they were undervalued or different valued. And the banks didn't complain.
Right. The banks said he never defaulted, never had an issue, never had a problem. But they said,
continued to do business with it.
So even if that was true, that was the case, it was essentially a victimless crime. If you could say, if it wasn't even a crime at all, I don't believe it is, because some of the numbers they were throwing out, I remember, were ridiculously low. But she's been going after him. This has been a name that's been in this since, 2018? I mean, there's been a number of years at this point. It's exhausting.
Well, we have a supercut of all the times she said that she wanted to go after President Trump. This is when she's running for office in New York. And so we should play that to remind people that She promised she was going to go after him before she had any evidence of that because she was not the Attorney General of New York. She gets elected and then does exactly what she says she was going to do. So let's run that bite 5 right now.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the He's going to know my name personally.
That man in the White House who can't go a day without threatening our fundamental rights. Yes, we need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered money. We need to find out whether or not he's engaged in conspiracy. It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home.
So she had made up her mind before she was even in that position of authority.
So exhausted for a Friday, guys.
That she was going to find out where he's laundered money. She's already convicted him in her mind before having the resources to follow that down. We need to find out whether or not he's engaged in conspiracy. Has already convicted him in her mind before even being in office. And the list goes on. So why is that important? Well, we know that was lawfare. She got a position and used that position of authority to go after the sitting president of the United States and then the former president of the United States, and finding a way finally to take him to court in a very favorable jurisdiction and getting that huge historic judgment against him. And that was a part of a puzzle, a mosaic, if you will, across the country of elected officials doing very similar things, trying to bring him down. Now, where this the investigation could follow, according to these sources, is that they're investigating whether or not there's a violation of what appears to be 18 U.S.C. 242, which is deprivation of rights under color of law, which says, whoever under color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such person being an alien or by reason to his color, race, than are prescribed for the punishments of these crimes, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 1 year or both. So they are looking at this, and this is a statute that is used against law enforcement if there is suspected racial bias or something on a low level, all the way up to elected officials in these positions of power if they're abusing their office.
There's not limits on them, but that's not particularly what they've been used for.
Well, it has been used in a broad way. Yeah. But one, it hasn't been used this way because we've also never seen an attorney general of the United States go after a former president in the way that she did. Now, as the other side says, oh, look, he's weaponizing it, going after his enemies, I think the Department of Justice, trying to seek accountability and see if these things went too far, we know they did. It was lawfare. And we've said we need that to stop in this country. The only way you're going to stop it is by hunting this down and seeing if you can bring charges and get a conviction. This is the second investigation of Letitia James. There is that other investigation the FBI is conducting that came from a criminal referral from a different branch of government where it appears that she, you know how they love to say no one's above the law? They always seem to say that about their political enemies, but then are doing things that make you think they think they're above the law, such as getting favorable loan terms.
They are the law.
By claiming a primary residence out of the state that she is the sitting attorney general for, and doing multiple things when it comes to lying on applications. At one point, and this one would be outside the statute of limitations, the mortgage regulator said that she even claimed her father was her husband on one mortgage back in the 80s to get more favorable terms. The very thing that she went after President Trump for, which was saying you falsified documents to get better loan terms, is exactly what she's now being investigated for doing herself by buying a house in Norfolk, Virginia. saying that was her
As a
primary residence
right.
when she was the attorney general, which by law, she's either violating New York law by not being able to be attorney general because you have to be a resident there, or violating mortgage law by lying on her mortgage application to get a more favorable term.
Yeah.
Whenever they point the finger and say, you're doing this, 9 times out of 10, it seems like they're doing the exact same thing.